particularly as far as the capabilities, or you can say the roles and responsibilities of understanding various facets of technology, like using tablets or smartphones they were concerned. So in order to understand the nuances that how assistive technology is going to be a boon and how industry as such and also academia is basically working in this domain, we have crafted this very important e-conclave so that everybody understands the nuts and bolts that right now at what stage we are in, and what is the future course of action, what like industry is required to do, what academia is required to do, what is R&D institutions, foundations, and NGOs required to do. And as we know that assistive technology, they have a huge potential to support people with disabilities to live and very, it's an independent and fulfilling life, and also to participate, optimally participate in the economy also. In many countries, PWDs, they have very limited or sometimes no access to assistive technology for a variety of reasons. We know, like the cost factor, affordability factor, even the reach factor, and one of the major reasons in low resource settings, and also there are some absence of targeted possibilities also. And as we know that UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, they have defined that people who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. So, in fact, UN Convention, they have defined disability in a very, very holistic manner. So as an industry, as a academia, as a R&D institution, it's our role that whatever best possible technologies can be given to PWDs, that is that is far less than what we in fact actually anticipate. And also, as we know that the World Bank estimates that there are more than 1 billion people worldwide, that is around close to 15% of the population, which is living with a disability. And in fact, there are several companies who are leading the way in disability inclusion. Many companies, they have their own inclusion. PWDs are playing a very, very important role in their, furthering the goals and objectives of the businesses. The accessibility and inclusivity must extend beyond the recruitment process, and many companies have in fact made a very, very important guidelines and HR policies for inclusion and diversity. And as we know that businesses and industry, they have been the drivers of social change as well as economic change. And across the globe, the companies, the corporations, they have begun acknowledging vital challenges. And diversity and inclusion is one of such defining issue, as many HR policies now they find the keyword as diversity and inclusion. And we know that assistive technology, they have a huge potential to support people with disabilities in their daily lives. And this is especially the case in many low and middle income countries, wherein these are required in very, very high density across length and breadth of a country, even a country like India. In fact, there are many different systems and services models for AT provision, but the reach and affordability fact is one of the important hindrances, that people are not able to actually realize the potential and use the AT to its fullest extent. So this e-conclave will try to get answered in one of the important domain, that is like what assistive technology service delivery models currently exist, what is known about their quality and impact, and how we can actually make these models which can actually go to the last mile consumer. So that's a very, very important facet. And at the same time, making it affordable so that each and every state of society we can be able to use it. And we know that there's a 2030 agenda for sustainable development that provides a plan of action for achieving an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable future. So in this domain, information and communication technologies are recognized as enablers for the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And when we are talking of achieving SDGs, so our PWDs, they are very, very important partners in the progress and growth of any country, and also in the progress and growth of any society. and we will actually try to find some of the solutions how we can surmount the challenges of making the reach of AT technologies to the last mile person who actually use it and who want to in fact use it for improving his or her quality of life. So we have in fact galaxy of domain experts who have all gathered together on this platform. And to start with, I'll request Mr. Kunal Singhal, the co-chair of Committee on ICT and Electronics of PhD Chamber of Commerce Industry, to kindly start the proceedings with the welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Kunal Singhal ji.
Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Respected speakers and the audience here. So I would like to welcome all of you and the esteemed panelists that we have here. The topic today is very, I would say, interesting and essential at the same time, because there are times when people who have a certain disability but are very, very able in a certain different aspect, and to be able to utilize that knowledge capital and that skill capital, we really need to be able to come up with technologies which can help them overcome their limitations. So to as simple as something as a culture that started in the Western countries, that whatever offices are designed, they need to be wheelchair friendly. That's the simplest thing that probably started a few decades ago in India. Also, for last few years, this has kind of become the norm. So going from there to whatever we can come forth in the future, and with the coming of AR, VR, and a lot of other robotic technologies, this seems to become a much more achievable tool and goal. So happy to hear from all the panelists today on what's happening in India and what they're looking for in the future on this landscape. Thank you once again. Welcome, everyone. Dr. Jitendra, up mute.
Yeah, thank you, Kunalji, for laying the foundation and for actually briefing the objectives of this very important, pertinent e-conclave. And I'll request to start with our first domain expert, our speaker, Mr. Ravinder Singh ji, Chief Executive Officer, Skill Council for Persons with Disabilities, NSDC, to kindly share his thoughts with the august audience, please. Over to you, Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. At the outset, I'd like to thank PhD Chamber of Commerce for organizing a workshop on such a critical topic. Professor Madhusudan, Kunal, Pulkit, Prateek, and all other participants, afternoon. Greetings from Skill Council for Persons with Disability. Now, disability is something we tend to kind of look at it as a, something which is different or something which is very unique, which is not so. Disability is integral to life. Wherever you have any kind of organism existing, you will have some level of disability somewhere or the other. Even human, as the person gets older, gradually embraces disabilities over a period of time, learns to adapt with it. I can see that of the panelists that are available on the screen, there are 4 of us who are wearing glasses. I, for one, if I take off my glasses, I'll just not be able to drive. And that's a disability. It's an assistive aid, a technology, a tool that is allowing me to, mainstream myself and be part of, integral part of the society. So persons with disability are not somebody different. They're very much you and me in the larger realm of things. There are 2 kinds of disabilities that are there. One are the disabilities which we kind of acquire over a period of time as we are getting older. And as you see, a larger volume of older population requires more and more of assistive aids and technologies and tools. Then there is a segment of population which is having disability with, right from birth. And that disability is unique to the extent that allows them to do a few things very differently. Now, I'll take a very small case in point. I'll share that, and then I'll come to the topic of discussion. As more and more industries are embracing people with disabilities or persons with special abilities, as I would love to call them, they're realizing that this segment of population at the workplace is able to contribute higher in terms of productivity, be it manufacturing, be it hospitality, be it any other trades that I'm talking. More and more as I progressively talk to the industries, be it logistics, be it hotel chains, be it restaurants, we find the productivity level of people with special abilities are higher. Their commitment to the organization is higher, and the propensity to change is pretty low. It's actually making a stronger business case for hiring such people. But what is the challenge? Challenge is that persons with different abilities tend to communicate in a different manner. There's nothing wrong with their learning, understanding, and assimilating of knowledge and facts and figures. It's how we communicate to them. Once we have mastered that communication technology and we have mastered that communication process, life becomes practically smooth for everybody. So that's the first and foremost step one has to look at when we are looking at integrating these persons with special ability into the mainstream. We need to have technology. Today, as Dr. Singh was mentioning, we are moving into Industry 4.0 with digital India being very much a fact. I mean, I was reading in the paper yesterday that COVID has made us learn something within weeks that possibly would have taken years to learn over a period of time otherwise. So to adapt is a very, very, inane to the human nature. We learn to adapt very fast. But that allows us also to quickly bring in the new innovative technologies and platforms. We have to consider two factors to it. One is the tool has to be not very expensive, and the technology has to be simply understood. I'll give you a very simple example, is that when you're looking at Indian Sign Language, when I'm using an Indian Sign Language and I make a sign like this or like this, it means the month of March, because I'm signifying Holi with a Pichkari. But that's something that is understood when I'm talking about northern part of the country. Southern part of the country doesn't celebrate Holi that much. So within the Indian Sign Language component also, there are regional nuances. So that also needs to be brought in when we are looking at bringing in tools that allow speech to text, text to speech, videos to sign languages, so on and so forth. These can be easily done. It can be very easily created. Most of the population now has a smartphone. I mean, and the penetration in the rural India is increasing leaps and bounds. The cost of the phones are coming down significantly, and more people are getting it. Unfortunately, what happens is that when it comes to persons with special abilities, the first level of discrimination starts happening at home itself. If a certain segment of resources are available, only the bare minimum is made available to that poor child, and rest is given to the rest of the other siblings. Steps are being made when we are looking at creating skill development programs, plans, etc. We bring in additional bridge modules, courses, etc., so that we are able to kind of mainstream them and then take on the training activities. But if we are able to take these technologies to them at their doorstep, we will make the training programs, we will make them, whatever we want to communicate to them, available at their doorstep. It will also address a very significant portion of the PWD population, which is women. It is very difficult to convince parents to send their special girl child to training centers, but it means somebody has to accompany the child to the training center for health, safety, and various other reasons. If we have such technologies available where it can be taken to the person's home, it will actually help mainstream this population also significantly. I'm very happy to say that Indian industry is way, way ahead when it comes to mainstreaming and inclusion. I've been in discussions with Scotland. I've been in discussions with other countries also. A lot of progressive countries, the level of inclusion is not to the extent that I am seeing within the country ourselves, be it in the hospitality industry, be it in the manufacturing industry. A lot of legislation, a lot of technologies, a lot of proactive activities are happening abroad. But when I'm looking at actually somebody getting mainstream, I'm sure what we are doing in India is much, much better than what a lot of other countries are doing. So we must take that lead. We must continue that lead. Right now, we are looking at a 2.68 crore population with special needs. That's because of the old legislation. The new RPD, which has come in 2016, with the new definitions of a lot of additional disabilities coming in, taking the total count to 21, I'm sure the percentage would be in the same that the UN percentage is, to the extent of anything between 12 to 15%. And that suddenly throws up a huge volume of population, which has to be mainstream. So I'm very happy again, and thank PhD Chamber of Commerce for inviting me for this discussion. And I'll just share one small slide of what the council does so that it'll give some idea about, with your permission, Dr. Jain.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
So just to share what the council does, the Skill Council for Persons with Disability. We are a horizontal sector skill council. We work across all the sector skill councils, identifying the job roles that can be adopted and made convenient for people to learn those jobs and do the job. So we adopt and we make them adapted for the purpose of the specific disabilities. We're currently working with 51 job roles. The aim is to increase that number 10 times. What we develop is something known as an expository that allows a person with a special ability to learn in a different, unique environment. So we have expositories for blindness, low vision, hearing impairment. Locomotor disability doesn't have so much of inputs separately to be given, but the technology tools and assistive tools need to be brought in when we are doing the training component. We're also now trying to bring in the intellectually disabled component into the mainstreaming. We are finding them beautifully integrating into the hospitality industry and the restaurant chains, etc. And they're actually able to do the work that is expected. There have been cases, I will not mention the name. There's a particular restaurant in Mumbai which has differently abled people in the front end. And it's the back end that they have our normal people managing the entire show. The entire thing has worked out so beautifully that restaurant change has now expanded to 3 restaurants within the country and abroad also. And the gentleman who's pursuing this is now actively looking at bringing in the beauty and wellness component with these people. So it's not something that it cannot be done. India is doing a wonderful job. Only thing that we need to do is we need to join hands. I'm very happy as a council to extend any support that is required for experimenting the technologies and tools that we can take to the training platforms. And I'm always open to suggestions. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the perspective of your skill council. In fact, you're doing wonderful work, and I'm sure that in times to come, there'll be more NOSIs and more QPs for PWDs, and they will be definitely, joining the all streams of, majority of the job roles. So thank you very much. Now I'll request Professor P.V. Madhusudan Rao, Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering and Design and Head of Department of Design, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, to kindly share his thoughts with the august audience, please. Over to you, Professor Rao Saab.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thanks for this opportunity. Are you able to see my slides?
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, we are able.
Are you able to?
Please make it
full. Yeah, I'm doing that. Just give me. Okay. So again, this is a wonderful opportunity and also a right time to discuss this particular subject. So I have actually put the title little bit more as economic and social prosperity, because I found that PhD CCI basically the overall goal is about economic and social prosperity, which is there, and then assistive technology. And the topic is also very apt in terms of assistive technology, because what happens is generally it is considered that people with disabilities are a dependent in terms of economic and social dependence. That is what is the general view, and it is also true to some extent. But what happens and what we have seen in these 12 to 15 years is that if you are able to provide assistive technology, okay, particularly I am looking at assistive technologies for mobility, education, and employment. Those are the spaces where we are working. And the person who is generally considered to be a dependent economically and socially starts becoming mobile, earns education, and is able to employ and bring that economic and social prosperity. So we look at assistive technology sitting between these two, and hence it's an extremely important subject to be discussed. And congratulations for this e-conference, which we are trying to do it here. You also mentioned about at what stage we are in terms of assistive technology. I would say we are at almost the zeroth stage when it comes to assistive technology. But there is nothing to bother because that's true for most of the world. Okay, if you actually look at WHO, which actually is one of the leading bodies looking at assistive technology at the global level. So they just met for the first time for assistive technology just 3 years back. That's the first ever global meet on assistive technology, which happened in 2017. And then they followed it up with second meeting, which happened last year in 2019. These are the only two global meets so far which happened. So that way we are not very far. We are actually kind of catching up. Since I happen to attend both these summits, so 90% of the world, as you said, is still is not much benefited by the assistive technology. I look at this as a huge opportunity. Okay, not only a social opportunity but also an economic opportunity because you have a pretty huge market which is available to you. So you did mention that 1 billion people, which is also a WHO statistic. If you take the geriatric aspect, then almost every seventh person needs some kind of an assistive technology, which is very true. And 80% of the persons with disabilities also live in developing countries. And the further statistics say that uh, 9 out of the 10 people who need assistive technologies do not have presently. That means that there is a huge 90% of the assistive technology market is open if somebody wants to even look from a very different perspective. So I think we are actually sitting on a big opportunity. Most of the time, what I see, since I work also in medical technologies, there are large number of people who are involved in medical technologies, but the number of people who actually in assistive technology is still very small. That's one thing. You also mentioned about SDGs. It's a very important from the SDG perspective because the assistive technologies touch 6 of the SDGs. That means any development which we do in 80s, you are actually trying to improve 6 of the sustainable development goals, which are very, very important. And that shows the importance of assistive technologies and today's discussion which we have. Now, but assistive technology space is also very different. And I think it's extremely important to understand that though there is a big opportunity, but what are the real challenges, particularly in terms of, let's say, if somebody wants to make an impact, uh, whether it's an organization, whether it's a professional body or a country or a state, there are huge challenges. I thought I'll just bring out a couple of them. So one is that when we look at many of the assistive technology, even let's say a wheelchair or anything which is there, so there are 5 dimensions which need to be addressed if somebody has to go from need to an impact, which is there. So there is a strong technical dimension because assistive technology. So the word technology is built in there. There is a huge medical dimension in many of the assistive technologies, which is an important thing to remember. And even bigger is a social dimension. There is in fact, some of our very earlier efforts to develop assistive technology and take them to market have failed not because of technical or medical dimension, but because of the social dimension. We didn't understand the disability and the social stigmas which are associated, which are very important if somebody has to be in the assistive technology. There is a huge business dimension, and also putting together all these dimensions in terms of human-centered design is very, very crucial. And what we have seen is that some of the efforts when assistive technologies do not make it to market or do not make an impact, we see that one of these dimensions is missing seriously. And I think bringing together these 5 dimensions is extremely crucial when it comes to assistive technology. So also at the WHO meet, one of the things which came up is to look at the 5 P's of assistive technologies, which are anybody who is in AT business has to address all of them. People who are the beneficiaries of these assistive technologies. Products is the second this thing. Policy is extremely important. And I think, again, PhD is into a lot of policy related work. And I think we see PhD CCI can have a major role in taking particularly the policy perspective in terms of assistive technologies, because that is also something which has been missing largely in our ecosystem. Provision, that means how do you actually see that the products actually reach people. Now, this is important, even if you look at probably the best countries, developed countries, whether it's USA or a UK or a Germany or Australia, the products and solution reach people. Somewhere the government comes into picture and there is a subsidy. It subsidizes some of these things in some form. Okay, it's not completely a market driven. Just because user wants it and they're able to pay it doesn't happen with assistive technologies largely. Somewhere the government role is very, very critical, and that understanding the provision aspect is there. The 5th is even more important, and probably India still needs to do a lot. Just like in medical technologies, we have physicians, nurses, paramedic staff. We still don't have much of these technical people associated with assistive technology, like rehabilitation specialists, AT experts, is a very, very small pool of people whom we have in the country. So even capacity building program, training programs to bring these people is very important if you really want to make in terms of assistive technology. And assistive technology is important because you have many stakeholders, and bringing all of them together is extremely important. We did have a few cases where in our journey for development of assistive technologies, we ignored one stakeholder or did not involve them very early, and we had quite a few failures. For example, we had a product where we did not involve the people who train people with disabilities on this. In our early development, we had to go back to our labs and redevelop and make it something which is easy to train. So what we learned is that key development of assistive technologies is a strong co-creation process with involving large number of users and stakeholders. That is one reason in last 12-15 years, we are able to tie up with almost 70 organizations which are working for the visually challenged. And they are our best resources in terms of all aspects, identifying the need in terms of testing, in terms of ratifying what works and what doesn't work, and even taking the products to people. These organizations help a lot, and that's one. But lastly, I just wanted to say there are 3 major challenges which we need to address, particularly from today's is. One is an awareness. Why I'm saying awareness is key. We are still going through a transition where many people still believe that empowerment of disabled people is still not possible. Okay, I think because there is no awareness about assistive technologies and what they can actually do to the people is still not penetrated very much into the heart of the country. Just to give an example, I was just attending a workshop where there were some 20 teachers who teach mathematics to people with visual impairment were discussing their challenges in teaching mathematics and the kind of problems they came up, the challenges. I found that solutions for these are already available, just that key teachers do not know that these solutions are available. Now, how do you uh, basically make them aware that the solutions are already available, but how to take it to people is probably affordability is another big thing because these are not market driven. Sometimes volumes are very low. So they need a very different business models to succeed. And we experimented with a few these days. And access is even more important that what kind of provisioning and what kind of dissemination model which we have is an important. So my last slide is for PhD CCI. Okay, I thought uh, one thing what PhD CCI can do in this space is that it can be a role model for accessibility and employment. I know you have 1.3 lakh members, and if members can probably take accessibility and employment very seriously, it's like a probably the biggest impact which world would see in terms of that. That means making accessible in all aspects. The other thing which we are also seeing is the entrepreneurial ecosystem for ATs is very, very new. We also have Pratik here and Pulkit who are into this in a very big way. And they have been working very hard to bring this ecosystem. But still, it's a very, very nascent at this stage. It still requires. Just to give an example, we have 60 incubators doing medical technologies in the country, which are supported. Big incubators, but we hardly have anything in the assistive technologies. So that is something. And advocacy is one thing which PhD is very good. And this is another aspect. As I said, a lot of them are not market driven. So government and CSR role becomes a very important to make an impact. And it requires a new development of business models and dissemination model. I think there was also a question when we were discussing, somebody has put a question, is there a BIS standards for assistive technologies? The answer is for most of them, we don't have, but BIS is now very active. If you have an assistive technology, they are ready to basically get you a standard either by harmonizing with existing standards or developing one which is very quickly. So that's happening in a big way, but we still don't have much of these standards. This is one thing probably PhD CCI can do in a big way, that bringing all the stakeholders, even what we see is that there are at least 6 ministries which are involved. Bringing those ministries together who are working itself is a challenge because sometimes they also don't connect. And then there are a lot of national and international bodies which can come together. A lot of capacity building programs are possible. And lastly, I think if you can promote universal design in all your endeavors, the need for assistive technologies can be reduced considerably. So those are some of my points. Thank you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Professor Rausa, for such a very, very elaborative and very contemporary presentation on assistive technology. And in fact, also the points you have mentioned that what industry association like PhD CCI can do, definitely we will try to do some brainstorming on these points. I am sure that directly or indirectly our industry members are doing a lot of activities. The only thing, as you rightly pointed out, is that convergence is required. So once we have the convergence models, once we are able to bring important stakeholders on the same page, and if there is some sort of convergence of their even CSR support also. I'm sure that many, mainstreaming of PWDs can be done even in the for the job opportunities also. Thank you
Thank you.
very much, sir, for sharing your perspective. Thank you. And I would like to invite Mr. Pulkit Agarwal, Investment Director, Assistive Technologies, Social Alpha, to kindly share his thoughts with your guest audience, please. Over to you, Mr. Pulkit.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Singh. First of all, I want to thank PhD Commerce and all the panelists for placing this such an important discussion today. I've been working in assistive technology, Dr. Singh, for almost, as I said, for 3 years, and it has been quite a learning area. Sir, I'll be talking largely from a perspective of assistive technologies from an innovator's point of view, as I said, because my area of expertise lies there. Uh, there are few areas I'll like to share one screen if it's okay.
Okay,
Is it visible?
yes, yes.
That's visible.
Awesome. So, sir, before I jump into the problem statement, I want to give you a little introduction of what social alpha is and what we have been doing. We started approximately 5 years back, sir, with an idea and intention to support some of the biggest problem statements in our country in a more entrepreneurial way. We wanted to identify entrepreneurs who can solve those problems in a more sustainable manner, identify a business model around it, and make sure that they sustain over a period of time. Assistive technology, and by nature of our structuring, we were very sure that we wanted to identify some areas which have been neglected by other venture capitalists, VCs, or investors in past, and assistive technology became our go-to area 3 years back. We started with investments in few of our startups like Tactopus, Bleetech, Bionic Yantra. Um, Soon we started realizing, as PVM sir said, the failures of market which we were not able to gain earlier. And I like to highlight some of the areas in understanding here today. First and foremost is, sir, the idea that, as PVM sir said, that he quantified in terms of number of incubators working in the space of assistive technologies. I want to give you a small number in terms of number of innovations that Social Alpha evaluates. Um, in an average number, we evaluate over 1,000 plus healthcare innovations in a year, and that number is drastically lower in assistive technology, closer to 150 assistive aids. That kind of highlights how much infrastructure lacking we have in terms of innovations. Unlike few of the IITs like IIT Delhi, IIT Madras, which are working uh, primarily to promote assistive aids, we lack infrastructure to support these innovations. So the first valley of death comes there, and that's what we want to support and we want to identify. So Social Alpha, for example, started their entrepreneurs in residence program to identify these innovators who want to become entrepreneurs. We started this fellowship program, an year-long program where we want to promote innovators to become entrepreneurs and want to partner with people like IIT Delhi, IIT Madras, so that we can push for these assistive technology in a more entrepreneurial manner. So the second point was the affordability and sustainability, and that's where the major topic of agenda today is. Like other panelists mentioned, unlike other sectors, affordability is a very key important factor for new innovations in this space. And we have seen this. Today we have invested in almost 17 assistive aid startups. And something which we realized was the end customers or the end users are not generally the buyers of these products. And the gap between the need and the affordability is so huge that I cannot expect them to spend that much money also. The out of pocket expenditure goes drastically high. To live that sustainable lifestyle is extremely difficult for person with disability. So we wanted to push for innovative financial models, which I believe PhD Commerce can help in advocacy, as PVM sir mentioned, uh, where Social Alpha is also playing a role in promoting something called blended financing. This blended financing is a fund available to us, which will be allocated to new innovative entrepreneurs to launch their product at a subsidized cost. while entrepreneurs are working towards reducing the cost of the product through engineering, through more innovations, they need support in a form of uh, these financial modeling so that the end users can buy the product. So it is as simple as providing a subsidy. And sir, I just wanted to highlight many of our sectors, including education. I have studied from a government school and government college, and most of my education was subsidized. So subsidy and blended financing plays a very huge role in market creation, and that can play a role in similarly in assistive technology, one of the sectors which has been lacking for quite some time. So the blended financing model supposed to be adopted by more and more number of incubators and investors. It is talking about better allocation of capital in the ecosystem. So this third aspect is the poor access and accessibility. This was again a topic which I wanted to highlight today. So this is a most of the innovators that we talk to today um, do not think of their go-to market or business strategies upfront. They think of it after the product is ready, after the prosthetic hand is ready. Now what to do? They don't understand that the market today is largely driven by government partners like LMCO and state-driven bodies, and they need to identify these partners upfront. They need to start collaborating with these players upfront. Second, they need to start thinking about a larger demographics, like sir said, and you also mentioned. We have 1 in 7 people who need assistive aid, and this number will go to 2 billion people by almost 2030, if we include all the kind of disability. So they need to start thinking beyond those 2.18 cr people with disability. They need to start thinking of geriatrics upfront. They need to start thinking of global market because they need to sustain. um, Another important aspect in accessibility is they need to start thinking who are the providers of accessible aids today. And more often you will realize that non-profits, NGOs play a huge role in India for providing these kinds of support. So for creating that accessibility, you need to identify these NGOs and start collaborating upfront. So the fourth aspect, which is investment, like the first three areas have kind of made the investment ecosystem very risk averse. They're looking at investing in agriculture, they're looking at investing in healthcare when it comes to assistive technology, because the distribution model has been so lacking or innovations are lacking, investments in this space have taken a backseat for quite some time, and risk appetite has gone down. This is where social alpha is also encouraging other investors, where we say that we will de-risk you. We will make sure that we make the first investment or the bets in these startups, so that other investors can take a plunge on it later on. We have already invested, as I said, on 17. We hope to expand this number to almost 25 startup by end of next year. Hopefully we will see more and more investors putting in money. We have seen few investors coming in at this point. So lastly, which is the manufacturing aspect, and this also comes from the servicing angle. um, all this has catered low investment, low risk capital, has resulted into a very cottage industry of manufacturing in assistive aids. It's very hard to find a manufacturing facility which can provide support in a long term for these products. Because as I said, the demand of these products are low, so none of the manufacturers are ready to push for it. B, since you're not designing it universally, you are always catering to a very small portion of the community. So we need support, A, on manufacturing. B, because you're going global, you need to get your certifications as per global standard, not only BSI, but also if required, go Europe, go America, go more established ecosystem where you can sustain and probably play a Robin Hood model, if I may use that word, because India need that subsidy to be provided from these mature markets. So start upfront, make sure that you manufacture and get certified at a global scale rather than only an Indian scale in this market. So yeah, so these are some points. I think last topic, which was on the efficiency of improvement, we need support, sir, from PhD also to help in faster rollouts of these innovations, and that comes if we have a more clear pathways of clinical validations and support, like healthcare ecosystem. We need clear pathways of how to get the product validated in the market. B, we need access to end users via NGOs or by government. And third, we need faster access, paid or unpaid pilots from the government. So these, I believe this will push for faster efficiency in terms of rollouts of these innovations. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pulkit, for sharing your insights, and also like in a single slide, you are given a total scenario in terms of what all startups at what phase they are in. And indeed you rightly said that these startups normally, they are normally in that hurried phase, and they are not actually able to understand the dynamics, that in order to make some sustainable product, a lot of traction is required from all stakeholders, a lot of research is required. So Professor Rao and Mr. Pratik, there was a question in chat box again, and it seems is a very important question, that there's a lot of emphasis on all three types of disabilities. But once we talk of cognitive disability, which is again a major, important thing that we need to discuss, there's very less, or you can say intense focus on this particular sector, particularly if we see from employment perspective, maybe from entrepreneurship perspective. We have many case studies wherein we have orthopedically challenged or hearing and speech impaired or visually impaired. We have seen success stories of many entrepreneurs, people making big businesses, even big empires also. But as far as cognitive disability goes, even if we see in job scenarios and otherwise in entrepreneurship, I think that is a missing link. So any like view on this, like any assistive technology, if made in this for this particular type of disability, if it can actually sort of thrust, or you can make a strong pitch for this particular type of disability also, so that these people can actually join the mainstream beat as a job provider or maybe as a job seeker. Any views on this, sir?
I don't know. I'll just say, and Pulkit can probably give a couple of examples of the startups they have funded in that particular aspect. Now, it has been a very difficult space, even in terms of development of assistive technology also, which is there, because it requires a very expert people to be a part of a team in order to develop. Sometimes, for example, in locomotor disability, we have seen that technology component is very high. If you have a rehabilitation expert as a part of a team, that's enough. But I think when it comes to cognitive disabilities, etc., it has been you need a strong experts, physicians, and you need a lot of their time uh, to actually develop. And it is not only here, but it has been a worldwide. Even when we have seen some of the people who came and invested in 80s, they say we are okay with hearing and vision and locomotor, but we don't want to touch cognitive aspects because of the difficulty in space, which is one of them. Uh, yeah, but I think it is definitely one area, and National Trust, which is one of the major organizations in India, which is actually looking at hundreds of NGOs which are working in cognitive and intellectual disabilities, is now has ramped up a lot of their activities. And I think this is also something which is catching up very fast, I would say.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Pulkar, you want to add something?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So, sir, I just want to add, today, if I see from a market perspective, from an entrepreneurial perspective, probably cognitive disability has more modes of survival in terms of sustainable ecosystem business model as compared to the other disabilities. Because this has been recognized globally as one of the biggest challenges, and more mature markets consider them under healthcare insurances. So Europe, America, you can actually get these products under insurances. Even in India, it has been now recognized, and if you go to the market, you go via B2C, more sorry, B2B, more a clinical model. Um, like Sir said, we have supported two of the startups in this space already in cognitive disabilities. We function in a more focused problem statement manner. One of the uh, our metrics, which basically defines how we identify technologies in developmental disorder. Right now, the need is in therapy as well as screen and diagnosis. So we need more technologies in screening. B, we need more technologies for reducing the clinical pathways of therapies. So if there are innovations in this space, this is highly sustainable business in terms of revenues. If we want to, it is highly needed. All doctors or hospitals, and today even in COVID scenarios, if there is a way of providing digital therapy or digital screening, uh, there is a huge need from the doctors as well. Third, the cognitive market needs a very high and handholding, both from the parents as well as the clinicians. So therapy of an hour or two at a clinical setting doesn't make sense. You need to provide a minimum of 40 to 48 hours in a week by parents. So providing a digital access of those therapy at a home structure is highly needed today. So all said and done, need demand business model is way developed for cognitive disability than any other sectors. um, as PVMs has said, we need more hospitals to get started upfront in terms of clinical validations. So two of the startups that we support is called Cogniable as well as Tamurai. Cogniable and Kidora. These are in screening as well as providing therapy for autism. There are other developmental disorders also which need support and innovations. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pulkaji, for giving us this perspective on cognitive disability. Because once we are talking of cognitive disability as such, we have to focus that it's again it's a big, sort of a umbrella. Because apart from the some hereditary disability in cognition, there may be some acquired medical conditions also, like traumatic brain injury, or maybe stroke or aneurysm, maybe like brain cancer. There may be something like brain deteriorating diseases like multiple sclerosis or Alzheimer's disease, or there may be some other dementing illness also. And apart from this, there are also a lot of learning and intellectual disabilities disabilities which are often associated with developmental disabilities like attention deficit disorder or ADHD or mental retardation or autism spectrum disorders. Even there can be some severe mental illness, some chronic mental illness like schizophrenia also. So considering a big sort of a chunk of these mental disorders, so just giving the name as mental cognitive disability may be undermining the the overarching thing which actually deals with these we in category we can just say this is a psychosomatic disease which affects your psyche as well as the body also. So considering a huge sort of a population who is actually going through all these rigmaroles, so I am sure that there may be some startups who may be working in these technologies also. We have many aggregators like pharmacy.com or even Pacto and other things. Similarly, like just wanted to ask Pulkit, from your perspective, since you deal with startups also, is there any aggregator startup or any aggregator services for persons with disability have you encountered or come across? If not, any Indian model, any global model?
Uh, y- so you're asking for startups or an innovations that can aggregate innovations at a platform. There
Right.
are few Indian entities which have been trying to do that, and there are some international Chinese platforms also which caters to locomotor related disabilities product like wheelchairs, prosthetic hands. Yes, there are, but I would not say they are quite successful. They're still facing one biggest issue in these aggregators are that post sale services. Though e-commerce can provide you the product, but when it comes to services it becomes a very huge problem. And this particular segment of assistive technology needs a uh, customer segmented designing. Even if you buy a wheelchair, it needs to be designed as per the customer need. And once it goes for a toss because of some damage, it needs servicing. So apart from an online aggregator, we need physical spaces which can provide these kind of services. So for last couple of years, sir, we've been Social Alpha have been pushing to identify some 7 or 8 NGOs, which are the biggest or resource centers where we have maximum walk-ins of person with disability to act as these service providers. And a digital access of these technologies is something which we are building called Open Innovation Platform at Social Alpha. So this open innovation platform will be an aggregator of all the innovations in a single place, while the physical centers like these NGOs will be these spokes which will provide the servicing to the end product. So this will also act as a distribution model in large terms. But yeah, we don't have a very strong channel today, if you're asking that.
So I think more traction is required in this space, because if we see the total startup ecosystem as such, I don't think there may be more than 1% investment out of the total investment that has gone in AT space as far as startups is concerned. So I think definitely we will be in fact coming out with a sort of a white paper on all the discussions that we are having today, and definitely we submit to government and also to our industry members also, because this is in fact once you do more study, once you do more deep diving, then you understand the complexities associated and also the opportunity cost that is associated with this huge chunk of population.
Yeah,
Because in terms of their man hours or the productivity these people can do, that is in fact amazing. So again, we are sitting on a sort of a, I will say, inferno of lot of big opportunity cost also that needs to be be looked at.
yeah,
Thank you, sir.
even just to add to that, suppose
Yeah.
if I need a medicine or a thermometer, I go to medical shop. But if
Right.
I need a white cane, where do I go? That question is still not answered.
That is that is
The answer for that.
okay. So we are joined with Dr. Suraj Singh also.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm sure that sir, once you give your presentation, you will be answering a lot of the questions that we will
Yeah.
just discuss in this window. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Rao and Mr. Pulkit Agarwal, for sharing your insights. I am sure that your thoughts were very valuable, and definitely, as I told you, that we'll be making a white paper on this. I'm sure that your thoughts will definitely add a lot of value in this. And in fact, we from PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry Study want to give a great push in this particular sector, because since we also work in startup space, we work in ICT and electronic space, in education space. So in all the discussions, I've hardly encountered any sort of a sector or any industry or any even organization working in AT space or even PWD space. In fact, once anything comes with PWD, in fact, immediately NGOs come into our mind, or social development sector or foundations come into our mind. I think that should not be, because it's also a big business opportunity also that needs to be unveiled. So going forward, thank you very much. And with this note, I now request Professor M. Balakrishnan, CSC Department, IIT Delhi, to kindly share his thoughts with the august audience, please. Over to you, Professor Balakrishnan.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. So I will start with the presentation that I have to share. So I will. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So I think a lot of ground has been covered by Pulkit. So some of things I will say is sort of add on to it and skip a few things. But let me start with some of the work that we have been doing. So myself and Professor Susan Rock, who is made a presentation earlier. So we have been running a lab called Assistive, which is focuses on mobility and education of visually impaired. So I also will make some of the points somewhat differing from some of the thoughts that were expressed, and I'll come back to that later. So innovation and entrepreneurship challenges in assistive technology space is what I'm going to focus on, but start from our own experiences. But they have been extremely, like last 15 years, we have been in this space. And each one of these projects that we have done, we have learned a lot, and both the strengths of the working in this space and also the challenges of working, limitations of working in countries like India. So what is the achievement? We have, I think, created a globally unique interdisciplinary laboratory focusing, as I said. From an academic point of view, it has been very satisfying because we have been able to create really an interdisciplinary environment, computer science, electrical, mechanical, design, and also the user. So we are all working under one roof, which has been a huge sort of, and we also had a lot of interest from our undergraduate students, who start with very simple projects, but finally we have been able to end up as products. So one of the success stories has been a device called SmartCane today, which is used by almost 80,000 users. This is another project which I think is could be impactful, but we are still struggling to get funding. So, as we are talking to PhD chambers, so I hope some of your industry partners would look at it. I'll talk a little bit more about it. So this will make buses accessible to visually impaired, not only to visually impaired, to also other disabilities. We'll talk about it. So we last year launched a affordable Braille laptop, so which we call is a dot book. So it's under now production now. So, and then we have a non-profit startup called Race Lines Foundation, which is in the business of making tactile books for STEM education for the blind people. So let me talk about some of the learnings from an entrepreneurship point of view. So the SmartCane, we launched it on 31st March, 80,000 plus devices, 1,500 devices exported, but so total revenue generated is around 22 crores in the last 5 years. So technically you will think that it could have been a successful startup, but it would have been a disaster if it had been a startup. Fortunately, we tied up with an existing manufacturer who had a successful line of products in the medical line, and he is producing this, and that is why it is successful. The reason is very clear. There is no assured market. Already Pulkit talked about, users are not the ones who buy. The decision for buying is made by somebody completely different from the users. And decisions are made. So, the government we were not able to get government support to do translation research, but in fact, government is supporting this project, as more than 80% of the our output is, the orders come from the government under the ADIP scheme. So they have been a big sort of a source of strength. But the thing is, these orders come at some point in time in the year, you cannot be assured, and in a short period of time, you need to supply them. This cannot be done, and the whole year there may not be any, we don't even know whether, because that all depends upon the budgeting cycle of the government, availability of funding. So a startup actually cannot depend on such type of purchase cycles. So it's just not possible. The fact that this works and this is successful is because it's produced by an existing manufacturer for whom this is not bread and butter. Okay, so his bread and butter comes from somewhere else. He does it as a part of it, and it's a fairly low cost, low margin product. But the reason it's successful is the device is extremely inexpensive compared to anything globally available. So this is an opportunity. It is possible to devise, and I will come back to this. Even as a design, it's successful. It has been shown in a lot of international exhibitions, including Smithsonian's in New York, and people really like the design because we did spend a lot of time doing the design. So this is one learning. My students, if they want to get into a startup, I have to be very careful in advising them whether they can do a startup or not, because fundamentally, as Pulkit also, I would like to stress, if you make a good product, if a user likes it, he has the money, he would buy it. But in this space, that's not the case. So that's a very fundamental challenge that we have. So how do we have a sure source of funding coming in? There is a second mobility product. We are very proud of it. It's a globally unique product. It's an innovation. It's patented and so on. We have very successfully shown it on Mumbai and in Delhi. So what it actually does, so it solves, okay, before I come to that, I forgot to mention one thing. The SmartCane solves a problem which is quite unique to Indian infrastructure. you have many obstacles which are knee above obstacles, which are overhanging obstacles on our footpath. Doesn't exist in developed countries. So that's also the need for such a product there is also much less. Because we have much more unsafe environment for, we create a corridor, we will put an air conditioner which actually covers half of the corridor, projects onto the corridor. When a sighted person is walking, he can avoid it. But when a visually impaired person is walking, he or she likes to walk along the wall, he will go and hit his upper body and upper body injuries will occur, whereas the room cooler. So infrastructure itself creates a need, and because our infrastructure is different, so the innovation comes from looking around you. So what it essentially means is global products cannot exist for such places where they don't even have the need. So we have the need and we have to create it. So that way there is a good scope for innovation, unfortunately because of the unstructured environment. So now I'll talk about this. This also comes from a very interesting requirement that came from users here. If somebody has to board a public bus, globally a blind person has to board a public bus, globally there is a challenge of finding the route number. If many buses come onto the bus stop, which is quite common in Indian bus stops, so how do you know which bus has come? Okay, and you have to ask somebody, and when you ask somebody, you may be disturbing somebody, especially in today's world, everybody is standing with the mobile and always busy all the time. So that's a global problem. But we have another problem. The buses do not come and stop in their bay. Buses stop. People from the bus stop have to travel 15 to 20 meters. So we have taken videos, large number of videos, analyze this, and if you have to cover 90% of the boardings, you might have to account for up to 20 meters of actually walking from where you are standing to where the bus entry door is. How do a blind person know, even if somebody tells this is the route number that has come? So this is a unique challenge, because if those of you travel to Europe or other countries, the buses will always come and stop in the bay. Okay, so even if the next bus comes, it will stand and wait. Again, a very unique requirement because of our infrastructure. Okay, so because of the way that many times, even if the driver wants, he may not be able to come to the bay. Sometimes it's a disciplinary issue. Sometimes it's also the actual infrastructure issue, because many slow-moving vehicles are standing or a lot of passengers are standing. So we created a unique solution, demonstrated it very successfully in Mumbai, and 25 buses, demonstrated it in Delhi. Government that was at that time in Maharashtra, they promised that they will like to put it. We have a letter from BEST that they would like to put it on all their 8,000 buses. Struggling for last 3 years to get funding to actually do a citywide installation, because if we can do a citywide installation, we would be able to get it as a regulatory requirement, because to make the buses accessible. The fact is, earlier in some of the talk, people were very positive that we are done. I think we are in a very, very weak situation on many of these. You will hardly see any blind person traveling in public buses in this country. And if you are not able to travel in public buses, you can see what is the access to education, what is the access to workplace, because buses are the most inexpensive way of traveling in most part of the country. So this is something that we talk about. So this is, I mentioned, this is of course clear case of affordability. This technology had been around globally for decades. The piezoelectric based braille, refreshable braille displays have been there at least for 3 decades globally, but no penetration in India, because the cost of these devices were so high that nobody in India could afford it. Even not forget personally, but they couldn't even afford it in blind schools. They were still, everybody was using only written braille and on paper braille. Clearly, with world going in digital, world going electronic, paper braille is not going to last very long. Most of your information comes on your, digitally. So you cannot keep on printing and reading it. So what do they do? Of course, audio is available. Fortunately, audio is popular, but reading and writing cannot be done away with, because that's a skill that is absolutely essential. So you still need braille. So we created this device, launched it. The Secretary, Minister of Social Justice, she launched this device last year from IIT Delhi. We had some teething production problems, but we are now into a phase we have started supplying these devices. The last project that I would like to talk about is a project on tactile books. Something like simply like accessible diagrams have just been missing from our scene. Blind children have been getting braille books because government has invested on braille presses, and the braille books are available at a very low cost or free of charge for the children. But the problem is they had no access to diagrams. So if you have no access to diagrams, most of the subjects you cannot comprehend or read most of the subjects. You can only read history. You can only read subjects which actually are languages. So blind children were discouraged from taking up, even in the 11th grade, to follow STEM education, which essentially means that the job opportunities, the type of jobs in the world that we live in. So we realized this once we started working on SmartCane project and looked at the type of material available globally. We thought this was a very big missing chain. And the reason was the production technology was so expensive that that technology never came to India, and we just denied them any access to, So we created this non-profit startup, which is called Race Lines Foundation. And today we have supplied, making number of titles, working closely with NCERT and making science and mathematics books available to the blind children all over. Is again, as Pulkit mentioned and as Professor Rao mentioned, affordability has been a key challenge in terms of, and now of course the challenge is also in training, because we have to have a set of teachers. First of all, the teachers themselves are not trained in use of these tactile books. So the issue is how do we actually able to reach out to a very large number. So that's about the projects and that's about the challenges we faced. And let me try to generalize it for our audience here. So what are the unique opportunities? So on the positive side, there are a lot of innovative solutions. Unfortunately, the environment is unstructured. It's not that we want an unstructured environment. We are a low-income country and we are still developing, and a lot of our cities and towns are actually, pathways and everything is quite unstructured. So we need innovative solutions, and the solutions that are made outside. All of us understand that a car that is developed, an automated car that is developed in West is not going to work in India so easily. Same thing is true in all that assistive technology. A lot of problems that are in. We talk about extreme affordability. When we are talking about affordability, we are not talking of a reduction of a 20%, 40%. We have to have reduced prices by 5x, 10x to what is globally available. Primarily because high-income countries, the solutions deal with a very low volume, and they have to take out whatever is the development cost, so which essentially means that the price of these devices is very high. And many of these assistive technology devices are still small players. It's not like people who are actually working on global markets. And again, as Professor Rao mentioned, and as 90% of the people who need such type of devices who live in low-income countries have no access to it. So the market remains small, which means they are extremely expensive. And we need extreme. And we do have a much more larger volume requirement, and because both software and electronics scale well, fortunately. So if you have solutions which are software solutions or electronic solutions, you get benefit out of large volume and you can actually make them affordable. But you have to innovate first. And it is, of course, can be attractive to many young people, at least working in place like IIT. I found that because you are making a direct impact, a lot of students do enjoy working on these projects. Now startup funding for research and prototyping available from government as well as VC, that people like Social are doing a great job in this space of actually providing, But the problem still remains that this is no organized master marketplace. I will not repeat it. Pulkit has already given very difficult to reach large volumes. Most users are not exposed to technology devices. So everything that you sell is a concept device because they are not still users of technology. So which means that the training requirements are high. And then again, with a distributed market and not special educators, very small number of special educators, it's again a challenge. Professor Rao already mentioned that how we had to work with a large number of NGOs to be able to. Prototyping money is available, but translational research funding is not available. So this is a very big challenge. So you can make a prototype, typically in many of these software electronics embedded type of devices, in 40-50 lakhs, you can get a prototype out. But if you have to make a product which actually, now Pulkit also talked about things which are, global standards and meet all of these. So you're still looking at a figure of 2 to 10 crores. And that is just not available because people are not going to invest because of returns. So it has to come from philanthropy, it has to come from government, and this is the type of, and it also has to come with public-private partnership. It's no good getting this funding in IIT because finally it needs to be manufactured and go to the users. So we still have a big challenge here. In our case, for example, both SmartKin and DotBook, we were actually funded by Wellcome Trust UK for this translational part, and that's why that we could actually come out with the device. We couldn't get funding within India. Tactile books, yes, we were able to get a center of excellence from DT, and that's how the project is up and running. Need is high, but it's not the user who pays. Again, a lot of talk has already happened to it, and I will not again repeat it. And this is the challenge. How do we ensure that if I get a good product, it will actually have a market? And that's something which is again a challenge. So it's not, it's dominated by charity and empathy. So commercial activities even looked down upon by key decision makers. So this is again a challenge. So, people don't understand unless it's commercial, it will not scale, it will not go global. It's not, you need margins to be able to invest in marketing, into investing into the next generation of products. So this understanding is also very weak in this sector, and that also makes things very difficult. Very low pricing, and there is also again a challenge with international markets and Indian markets. So they need more features, but they are also ready to pay higher price. How do we manage this? In some cases, we find this even difficult. I presented this. There are a lot of people who have been behind it. So these are all people who have helped us in this particular journey. With Dipendra Manocha, Rohan Paul, one of our earlier students, now is a colleague of ours. Professor Rao, he already talked on the panel. Sashi is managing director of Phoenix Medical Systems and has been a sort of pioneer for us. He's also involved in other projects in Assistive Technology now, Pulkit and Suman. And Piyush was a young researchers who joined us, our own students, and they continued working on it, even leaving many more lucrative opportunities to be in this space. Finally, because I'm talking to PhD Chamber of Commerce, and I suppose there may be people who may be interested in taking this forward. So we have the Race Lines Foundation, which is actually into making tactile books. And we are interested in people who would actually like to work through their CSR and other activities to help us in reaching more number of blind children with books. And the other thing that we are looking for is a support for a citywide trials before we can go to a regulator for our onboard device, and we can promise this will be something globally a unique solution, which can be exported to many other countries which have buses, but it needs to be proved. And we are just struggling for this for almost last 3 years to get any type of funding. Thank you, Assistant. So I will end with my presentation here.
Thank you, Professor Balakrishnan, for a very wonderful presentation. Under your tutelage, I am sure that Assistech will definitely come out with novel and innovative products. And you rightly mentioned that, like whenever we talk of 80s or in disability sector, normally, the concept of charity or philanthropy comes in mind. I think it's a misconception. It's a big fallacy. In fact, if you do some sort of more, research, then again, it's a big business opportunity also. So until and as you rightly said, that SmartCare was successful because the manufacturer was roped in, manufacturer of, the orthopedic products. Similarly, like in all these endeavors, institutions like you, like some centers of excellence can definitely, give a prototype. It is up to the, manufacturer, the corporate or any enterprise who can actually take it forward, because corporations, they have their own network linkages, they have their own, supply chains, the logistics, everything is there in line. But from your perspective, you can actually, give a prototype. I'm sure that this is again, this platform is also sort of industry academia interface, because the products that you are showing, in fact, there are many delegates from the industry also who are witnessing all these products. I'm sure that there may be some queries post this e-conclave also, and at PhD we are always very eager to, put forward your case, which is definitely very innovative to our members. And we look forward to your, some sort of write up on this product, which we can float to all our members also, if they want to take it. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Balakrishnan. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Charudatta Jadhav, Head Accessibility R&I, Tata Consultancy Services Limited, for your kind presentation, sir. Over to you, Dr. Jadhav.
Dr. Charuta, you are there. I have started sharing.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir, you
now
are
you are.
audible.
You can go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So good evening, and thank you for giving this opportunity to share my thoughts on the topic, which is very close to my heart. I'm passionate about. Uh, so begin next 10 to 12 minutes. I will be talking about the assistive technology with new paradigm. How we could look assistive technology research and development with a different perspective. Uh, so let's begin with understanding the current trends. So as we all aware that technology has playing an important role in our life. So we cannot even think about any day, any activity where today technology is not had its play. For person with disability, the role of technology is much bigger even today. So it's not only it has helped people with disability to access some of the services which was not possible earlier, but it has also helped to overcome their limitations, physical limitations, and participate in society, in professional life equally, and live the life with dignity, and to be an the citizen which is playing an important part in nation building. So all this basically there are a lot of technology advancements has been done. uh, Second important trend we see from the assistive technology perspective, the gap between an assistive technology and mainstream technology is getting blurred day by day. It's not a today's trend, but today it is more relevant. So some of the examples which I can give, which some of the assistive technologies or considerations for people with disabilities are already becoming mainstream. So if you can look at the ramps, the automatic doors, the curbs, all this primarily has been designed for motor disables, the wheelchair bound person, but today it is an integral part of our infrastructure. Audiobook 1923, the first time the audiobook has been created for blind person, so he could basically do his studies independently. Today the audiobook is a $1 million business, so it's preferred by even the mainstream. We can see so many such examples. There are few just I highlighted, but there are n number of such examples where the pager, which has been invented for hearing difficulty, solving the problem of hearing difficulty, was become a mainstream for the field force and all those. So those are basically which has established technologies which has become a mainstream. What we see today is the current trends. So there are several technologies which primarily used by people with disability. So for example, the speech technology used by motor disabled, used by blind people from last 2 decades, 2.5 decades. So that is the only medium where they could interact with technology. The eye tracking, the brain sensing, the gestures are also important modalities used by people with disability, especially motor disabled, to interact with technology. Those technologies are prevalent. Of course, the robustness was the question. But when we see that speech technology has become robust, today it has started making an inroads. So this Amazon has come up with an Alexa, Google come up with a Google Assist, Google Home, the Apple has come up with Siri, and several newer services have started delivering using these technologies just because these technologies are become mainstream. And we see these trends that when these other technologies like eye tracking, the brain sensing, the gestures, when this also become the robots just like in voice, the way the mainstream is going to interact with technology will change. An example, today we basically interact with technology on web and mobile primarily. But when such kind of technologies are available, we may see that the similar services which we basically enjoy on web and mobile can be delivered through connected car and smart homes or connected homes kind of environment. And therefore, what is important to look at when we think about an assistive technology, we should not limit our thought process from person with disability when we invest in research and even sometime developing the products. I will come into that part, how we could take such technologies in the future part into productization for the mainstream. So these are a few important trends which is going to drive the further research and development if we look this assistive technology in a different perspective. Another positive sign which we see is there are more and more the academic institutes are getting into this research. Then there are government funded startups, but there are more startups that I interact with so many academic institutes. There are students who are really interested to get into this the social space and get into the startup mode. But so this is a positive sign. So it's not that we need to depend upon the government or depend upon the few institutes and few corporates. We see that this trend can be leveraged. Of course, as Professor Bala, Professor Madhusudan has already highlighted several challenges. They are pioneer in this space. They have done an extremely good work in this space. But even with dedicated efforts by the Professor Bala's team, or there are several such initiatives across our India, these challenges are still there, and these challenges are playing an very important role in in creating the hurdles or taking this initiative to the next level to create impact and then scale it. And therefore, into today's audience, I would like to take an opportunity to share a perspective, a long-term perspective to this particular space, how we could look at. Of course, whatever is happening today will definitely happen, but can we look this holistically from the nation perspective, country perspective, and look this problem and channelize the existing the resources, the stakeholders who are already involved in creating a multiplier effect or larger effect. Of course, solving the problems, some of the problems may get solved with this approach, and some of the problems will require and dedicated efforts. So let's come to the strategy, how we should look the assistive technology. So instead of looking at assistive technology from the people with disability perspective, my first suggestion here, or humble submission here, to look the assistive technology with different perspective. We need to divide an assistive technology into three different areas. The first area is in core technologies, which is for example, in Indian perspective today, even if we consider India as an superpower in IT today. Today, India doesn't have a robust text-to-speech engine for all languages, robust speech recognition engine for all the languages, the OCR for all the languages. Even today, we do not have very strong engine for the sign languages. So the sign languages, then there is very little research which is happening in the core technologies like eye tracking and all those, which has been used by people with disabilities in our country. A lot of those core research, core technologies like AR, VR, and all those has big potential. Potential is not only solving the problem of people with disability, but also create value to the mainstream. Even we see that our image processing, the surrounding information and all those, the drone technologies, that a lot of existing technologies can be repurposed. Those core technology could be repurposed and applied to the use cases specific to PWDs. Second, we need to categorize how Professor Bala and Madhusudan Rao and then several such this. There are specialized products which is required for people with disabilities. So there is no alternate. So we need to design and develop a product which will help people with disability to overcome their limitations. And those could be used only by people with disabilities. So that focused research will be required. But the third and important area, which is repurposing of product development. So when we design the products, there are several such products could be designed with an inclusive approach. So inclusive approach. So those technologies and that products could be also used by people with disabilities. So if you divide the research of assistive technology and product development into these three different areas, and then devise a strategy, nationwide strategy. Of course, all stakeholders has to play a role. Government has to play a critical role. Academic institute has to play a critical role, and industry also needs to play a critical role. So now let's think about how we could approach this. Now, I will start with an inclusive approach where there are a lot of such products can be developed, keeping in mind an inclusivity. For example, an indoor navigation. So today, navigation in the indoor environment is a big challenge for person with disability, especially a visually challenged person. It impacts his the education. So how we basically go through university campus, which are very big. If he's going to the mall and he wants to do shopping, how we could basically go and find out the right shop. If he wants to basically get into commute from one place to another place, the airports, railway station, bus station. Now Professor Bala has talked about very specific use case of the public transport in bus spaces. Now there are certain challenges which these technologies are solving, which is very specific for people with disability. But there are several those challenges which has been solved with these technologies are similar challenges which mainstream people also face. Now, indoor navigation, unfamiliar environment is a challenge for the mainstream user also. Okay. Now, what is required to when we basically repurpose such kind of basically research and product development, that the user-centric design and user-centric services. So how you will deliver those services to the mainstream and how you will deliver those services to the person with disability will vary. But your core research, the development of core technology may remain same, and then you basically go and deliver those services in personalized manners to the people with disability. So now, for example, this solution of bus, it's just a thought because Professor Bala has already explained this. If we think about integrating this into a larger platform like an M-Educator or something similar which has been used by and mainstream users, and we can add some functionalities like this. Of course, the infrastructure is required. So when the next bus will come is a challenge for the mainstream and for the person with disability. So he's also waiting when my my bus will come, which could be solved with this. And when bus is arrived, the mainstream person will not have a challenge, but the blind person will have challenge that which is this bus and then exactly where is the door and all those. So now those kind of personalized services could be provided. So with a similar platform, think about an appliances which we basically use in our existing homes, right? This very simple example of thermometers. Instead of designing a thermometer especially for blind, which will have a speech enabled, can we think about and designing an inclusive thermometer which could be used? Now, when we do the mass production of such things, the additional functionality which we are building, the cost will get divided into larger customer base, and then the affordability could be addressed to that. So instead of designing and specializing thermometer for blind, can we basically design an inclusive thermometer which can be used? Similarly, you take any appliances, home appliances, your washing machine and all those existing washing machine, you just add these additional modalities as a part of your design and technology, and that's why that core technology research is very important and all those. We could basically make our existing products inclusive. Of course, user-centric approach will be required, and therefore the efforts like assistive tech, where the user research, the challenges of people with disability could be considered, and those challenges could be addressed through design. So very important is that there are more products. Products could be looked from the inclusive approach perspective, and our existing industries, existing manufacturers who are basically already in this area could reimagine their services, adding this part as a part of a scope. Of course, they can partner with Assistive Tech, they can partner with so many academic institutes who are doing a specialized work, doing a prototype, getting integrated into that, and then design. So then supply chain part also can be taken care for this kind of products. Number two, the specialized product, more and more academic institutes should basically follow the path what IIT Delhi has done. They have established a dedicated research and stream in the organization. So understanding about assistive technology, understanding about the needs of people with disability should be taught in the engineering curriculum, but also there is a dedicated efforts required or focus required in research. So more academic institutes should look at focused research in this number one. Number two, the startups who are already coming. There are so many companies who are basically providing and venture seed funds to something. But what is required here is as an national platform where all the stakeholders could work together instead of working in isolation or creating their own roadmaps and creating their own mechanisms, the supply chain and all those. Can we basically create the ecosystem could be leveraged, and therefore the role of government, role of the organization like PhD chambers and the other stakeholders come together to create those kind of ecosystems which could help reducing the burden on these such startups. Number one. Number two, there is no alternate that we could bring down the cost. The kind of investment is required in specialized products. So government roles becomes very critical. Of course, now Professor Bala has told that how much he struggled. But what is important is that that the technologies which is helping people with disability to overcome their physical limitations, those technologies has to be made available to people with disability if you really want to tap this untapped talent and bring them to the mainstream and contribute to the nation building. And this is what that responsibility of a government. But what is important is it is look into the isolation will not work. So how this entire ecosystem should be built, where government could provide the research fund, government could basically subsidize some of the products, government can provide the grants to something, this kind of products. There are EDIP schemes, but those are very smaller impacts. Impact is required, and that way we could basically solve the problem of this particular space. With affordability, and then reaching, of course, the supply chain and all those will have its own challenges. But when we look at an ecosystem of inclusive products and all those, can we think about creating the ecosystem which could basically complement each other and find up a solution of door-to-door service or services at the a given focal point. And the last one is again, which I already explained, that core technology. The next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, what we look at the way technology is going to play an important role. The artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, the AR, VR, and the important is 5G. Is not only going to redefine the life of people with disability, but it's going to redefine the life of mainstream. And we see a lot of conversion and basically the opportunities where these gaps, the gaps will further minimize, and therefore it's the right time where the country like India should look at this, the assistive technology holistically beyond disability to create those ecosystems, create those structures, systems, and then in real sense when we talk about the smart home and smart cities and all those, the smart cities and smart home will become real, actually real smart, when those smart cities and smart homes will be inclusive. And inclusive, when I say that the products and services will be designed for all, instead of this. There's a partnership with the academic institute, the startups, with the mainstream product developers are basically way to go forward, or adopting an inclusive approach will make big difference. So I will conclude my perspective here is that this audience, and this is an opportunity to think, to set up a vision for our country. Of course, there is a lot of advocacy is required. We need to bring the government on board, but can we have a vision to have, and the important assistive technology as an industry, part of the chambers of commerce. How a NASCOM as an IT can assistive technology is one of the part of this, and has an independent focus, or specialized focus. See, in US there is an already assistive technology association, where 500 plus assistive technologies are basically, as an industry, works with government, and ensure that they get all those kind of support. So can we have that vision, and then create nationwide strategy where all the stakeholders could work together, government has to play together, create those strategies, and then go and implement those strategies, and create those ecosystems, and try and solve those challenges, create and make an impact, and then achieve that scale which we all basically looking at. So this is which I would like to share my perspective from, as a student of this domain, which I wanted to share today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Charudatta. In fact, you are not a student of this domain, but you are a master of this domain. And the vision that you have outlined in terms of country-wide vision driven with public-private partnership with a dedicated confederation of industry for 80, I'm sure that this is again a sort of a, you can say, thought leader talk, because leaders like you who are actually, who actually understand the nuances of AT, and how PWD, they basically are looking for ATs as per their own suitability, as per their own customization. I'm sure that such visionary ideas definitely will bear some fruits. In fact, we'll be very, very forthcoming in starting a small cell at PHDCCI, after if we get some sort of clearances from our leadership. And as you rightly said, there has to be a nationwide strategy for AT, and with active role of government in core research and specialized product development. So these are the important underlying factors. In fact, these are the fundamentals on which the whole, or you can say the entire sector of AT rests. I'm sure that visionary ideas, and with the research and development products by centers of excellence like IIT Delhi and other institutions, definitely we can see a landmark, some sort of innovation in this field. And probably in a decade or so, what we foresee, or the vision, is that each and every person, like irrespective of their stature, is irrespective of their class, gender, irrespective of their whatever the differentiation they may be having, they should be in fact having one or two devices of AT. I think then only we can say that we are already, we will the IT superpower. Because being IT superpower, but with no AT penetration, I don't think, in fact, this is a small lacuna in our entire IT ecosystem. So superpower IT can only be, the status can be achieved if we have some sort of footprints of AT in the entire value chain of people who actually need all these products and services. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to conclude with saying this, that the approach is required is inclusive. So we have to look assistive technology beyond people with disability, instead of designing for disability, designing for limitations. That is number one. So like Apple, you can take an iPhone, so anybody can just pick up and start using. So even it's a person with disability or in the mainstream. So already all those basically could be embedded, and a lot of those services which has been created for person with disability has been used by mainstream. So we need to visualize and the vision of a lot of such products which we basically develop in our country, from that perspective, so that affordability, supply chain, and all those could be minimized, and specialized product will required and dedicated focus, which is and the dedicated product should be developed for people with disability. So I will basically stop here with this note. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And equally, I'm thankful to Ms. Fazana Sheikh also for also like helping us to understand all these slides, because they are very, very vital, very important. I'm sure the sort of the white paper that we'll be making out of this e-conclave definitely will have many points from this PPT also. So thank you very much. Thank you, sir and madam.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I'll request our next domain expert, our speaker, Mr. Pratik Yadav Madhav ji, co-founder and CEO, Assist Tech Foundation, ATF, to kindly share your thoughts with the August audience, please. Over to you, Mr. Pratik Madhav ji.
Well, thank you, Mr. Singh, for the invite, and congratulations for organizing this e-conclave. In fact, congratulations for inviting such a august, panel of speakers, whom I think most of them I know and I collaborate with in ATF. So thank you for the invite. Are you able to see my presentation, sir?
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay, the question which I'm asking myself, and I think everybody who's attending this conclave, is that the world is changing, but why aren't we? And we have seen world changing in terms of Ola and Uber disrupting the way we travel. We have seen Zomato and Swiggy changing the way we think about food and food delivery. We have Beju's, we have Udemy, which has really changed our thinking in terms of how do we educate our kids or how do we upskill ourselves. But at AT and in the ecosystem of assistive technology, I think most of the challenges have remained same or similar. In fact, I was so amazed with the kind of challenges which some of the panelists were sharing with us, and they are really critical challenges. But my question and a humble submission here is, if we were having this conclave 5 years back, I think probably we would have talked about the similar challenges. So it means the innovation which is happening in the rest of the world is not either happening in our world of assistive technology, or we are just not able to consolidate that whole innovation and make progress. Yeah. Now, and so that's my point of view. But let me start by saying that we all always talk about problem, and we describe disability as a problem which is large enough, which is a true statement. We talk about 1 billion people. We talk about 2.68 crore or 70 million people in India. But I think we use word called problem, and the world, when I talk to, has disability as an issue, but the world has many other issues. The world has climate as an issue, yeah. And the response always has been, yeah, there is disability as a problem, and there are multiple other problems. And I think what we need to do is to change our storytelling. What we need to do is to change the way we approach the outside world for collaboration, for help. And we need to tell them that disability is not an issue, disability is an opportunity. Let me share a few numbers with all of you guys. If we include all people with disability in India, which we exclude them today, it will amount to 7% growth in our GDP. We are talking about 10.2 lakh crores added in our economy if we include all of these people in our economy. That's a fantastic opportunity. So we need to probably change our game, change the way we talk to people, saying that yes, it's a problem, yes, it needs innovation, yes, it needs to be taken care, but what opportunity it offers to the rest of the world. Let me share a few other numbers. The global disabled and elderly market, and I think this number is still very conservative, is worth $26 billion in next few years. Now, I was talking to somebody in WHO whom we are going to partner, and they said now SDG 2030, we only have 10 years left. So we probably need to do last 20 years of work in next 10 years. How's that going to happen? So that's the opportunity we're looking at. In India, this opportunity amounts to $700 million as a number. So I think what I'm trying to tell is we need to change the game, change the game and the way we talk to people about disability. It's just two sides of the coin, probably. Yeah. Now, there is a larger opportunity that lies with us. Globally, impact invest market is $715 billion. We are talking about not even 0.1% of that getting invested in disability. I'm not talking about India, I'm talking about globally, which means there is something which is missing, not in our ecosystem in India, but globally as well. Yeah. Now, what we did is in the last few years, I've spent 10, 11 years apart from my corporate roles in disability, and we realized that the whole markets is really fragmented. While there is amazing amount of innovation which is happening, and IT Delhi probably is one of the most pioneer institute which has done phenomenal amount of work. But still, we realized the innovation through startups, government policies, because government was really phenomenal in terms of the policies, but they probably did not have much association with the startup and the technology side of it. So the whole ecosystem has been so fragmented over here. And ATF, what we are trying to do is to really put it together. And I think that's where the non-profit, we are working with all the entities. In last few years, we have been able to create an ecosystem around 400 plus startups. In our accelerator program, we have 21 of startups who are the startups with disability tech with 50 plus products. They actually hold 14 patents, as we speak. And I think that's the power of technology, which I think all of us believe in, that with just this 21 startup, we have been able to positively impact lives of 1.75 lakh people with disability. And I have to tell you, while it gives me personal satisfaction to share this number with you folks, I think it is just the beginning, not the end. We are also taking a global view of this whole landscape, where I'm working with 7 other countries, and I know Mr. Ravindra was talking about something in Scotland, and we'll be happy to partner with the ministry on that front. I'm talking to people who have interest in innovation in assistive technology, not the traditional outlook, and we are creating a global alliance of sort, which is first ever in the whole world, to really take an innovator's view, take a view of how startups can disrupt this market that like the other markets which have been disrupted. Yeah. A little bit on these startups, but before I go there, I'm so blessed with people from industry. We have 45 plus people, industry leaders who are from government, investors, corporate CSR, innovators, researchers, people from educational institution, and people who themselves have faced this, the whole challenge of people with disability, And I'm collaborating at ATF with all of them to bring about this whole ecosystem. These are the 2021 startups whom I work with. There was earlier, Mr. Singh, there was a question on the mental illness or the cognitive disability side. Let me tell you, the view has to change. There are so many people innovating, for these kind of disabilities, and like Pulkit said, it's a market which is really insurance driven. It's a market where a lot of people, who are wealthy, who can really pay for these technology. There's a lot of technology that exists. It's just that the awareness creation is not there. There's no single platform in India which really talks and exhibits, and portrays and make these technologies visible. And in ATF, we have been able to discover so many startups, so many innovators who are working in this area. And Mr. Singh, again, we are happy to share our knowledge and whatever we have gathered, the ecosystem which we have made. Yeah. Now, the forward-looking dialogue. I think we've talked a lot about challenges. Let me tell you my view on what are the 5 things that's going to redefine next 10 years of assistive technology. And that's just my point of view. I'm happy to discuss and debate. I think the first is about blitzscaling. Blitzscaling, I picked up the word, from a book which was, with this name by a gentleman, Reid Hoffman, who is the founder of LinkedIn. And I think Reid talks about a phenomenal point of view about how do you really combine scale and speed both. I think traditionally we have been very conservative about assistive technology and the kind of scale which we could build. And today we need to really think about top down and think about how do you really mix these two components. So as AT or focus organization depend on multi-dimensional partnership for growth. And I'm just going to read some of the thoughts which I've written it. Our own legacy, sometimes the way we design our organization, the way we design our partnership are not to scale. We think about 10, 20, 30 as a number, where the problems in the previous slide or this, we would have described as millions of people. How we are going to reach from 10, 20, 30 to million is not only an execution challenge, I think it's a mindset problem today. And I think to fully leverage the power of connected intelligence, we need to really re-architect ourselves. We need to really change the landscape. If we do not do it, I think we're going to leave a lot of value on table, and value is not in just in terms of the money, which I described about $25 billion market and some 10.2 lakh crore. I think it's the value to the user. Yeah. The second thing which I love to share with you guys, and I think which Professor Rao spoke about very beautifully, is the process of co-creation. I think startups who are going to change the game of assistive technology in the coming time are not going to survive if we do not help them to co-create some of these solutions. So Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they have phenomenal technologies. They have really deep power of tech. And I think if we do not create some of this collaboration or facilitate some of these conversation of co-creation, I don't think we are going to really able to make too much of a difference, because they are going to face the challenge of distribution and they're going to die. The third trend, which I think it's going to happen, is that we need to really include innovation as a part of our DNA. Now, I think innovation in my mind also is a very overused word, in the context that we are talking. But really, I'm talking about inventing a better human-centered future for people with disability, which also Professor Rao touched a bit about. And I think we are talking about technology changing lives, right? And Mr. Jadhav was talking about why not we design solutions which are not only for people with disability, they're for the larger market. So I think we all believe that technology is changing the landscape. I think we just need to make that innovation responsible instead of really creating a section which is only for AT. So we need to go to people who are innovating in the world in India, and we want to we have to collaborate with them. We have to sensitize with them to make their innovation more responsible, more inclusive. So that's the third one. I think it's the end of distance. I mean, today, I think this e-conclave probably is one of the best example, right, Mr. Singh, where you would have invited all of us to travel and, sit in place, but you are able to do this because it's end of distance. So I think all of us are sitting in, 5 to 10 cities, and we are able to have the same or similar effective dialogue. And that's just the power of technology. That's just, that the way we think about distance is going to be totally different. And the point of view on that is, while technology is really moving the distance between people and information, it's also driving experience. We are no more only talking about the functional aspects of assistive technology. We're talking about experience. iPhone is not just a feature. iPhone is an experience. Yeah. But how do we really create this global solution? There is immense amount of innovation that exists in the world. Absolutely agree with some of the co-panelists where they say it's not frugal, but can we look at it from an innovator's point of view, technology point of view, and create like a global solution, which is a combination of global innovation, but which fits India's bill, which fits India's geography. Yeah, so think global, serve local. And my last submission is harnessing the power of millennials. I think today, there is a movement of young people who are really, thinking differently. I think the average age of innovator in India and outside will be 20 something. Yeah, I don't think we have any 20 something in this conclave. So what we need to do is we need to really excite some of these millennials, young people, and I'm so glad that a lot of universities like IT Delhi are taking the center stage, but we still need to really drive this whole change in assistive technology, innovation through more young people, because the way they think, probably I personally cannot think. Not that I'm saying I'm too old, but I'm just saying, the way the solutions which these people can bring in the context in which they have been born and brought up is going to be totally different. Today, when I look at the interventions of young people, the involvement of young people in AT, I think it's dismal. Who's talking about it in global? I think there is a power of millennials which we can use to drive. We at ATF has been trying to engage a lot of millennials, a lot of colleges, and we are happy to partner again, Mr. Singh, with you, your organization, and the ministry as well, because they are into the skilling. Just to end, what I was trying to say, in ATF, we are trying to create a center of excellence for assistive technology, which partners with everybody who's present out here. I think there is an investor angle, there is a government point of view, there is an educational part of it. There is a lot of corporates who can get engaged not only in CSR, but from the venture development side, from an investment side. So we are happy to partner with everybody. But thank you so much, Dr. Singh, for inviting me. Hopefully this was useful to you, your organization, and the audiences.
Thank you. Thank you, in fact, Mr. Prateek Madhav, for such a nice presentation, and also the views that you have shared with all of us. Definitely, and the figures are all mind-boggling. In fact, I am sure that it makes a lot of business sense to just venture in this field, because the numbers you have said, and you said that numbers are quite conservative. The numbers might be, maybe 2x. You never know. So the point is, it's all about. Yeah, definitely. So you rightly said it's all about convergence, because what I strongly feel that uh, typically as Indians, probably we are in habit of working in silos. I don't know why. Even within organizations, between two departments, the left hand does not know what the right is doing. Similarly, in government departments also, reinvention of the wheel is taking place at several places, with all scarce resources and time and the energies we have. I'm sure that if we get in this mode of convergence, then only we can see the ball rolling, be it or whatever model it is. And I think we have to learn from nature also. For example, if you go in forest and look at trees, the trees they are not looking for any water or any nutrition. They are all these trees in the forest, they are all interconnected by the roots, and through roots they are exchanging their nutrition and nutrients, and they are surviving, growing big and big. In fact, we are human beings, we have language, we have technology. Why we don't converge and come with some beautiful models? Why don't we believe in collaborative commons? For example, TCS, which is best in the IT. You take L&T, best in project management. Take some of the university like IT Delhi, best in research and development. Why don't these three players and maybe the platform like PhD chamber, why not all these four models or four entities converge together and come out with some innovative product? I'm sure that if such four institutions with great minds, they all come together, discuss a problem statement, I'm sure the results that will come out, or the outcome will definitely will be there will be total model of synergy in that. So I think this is the way forward, and I'm sure that your in fact presentation has also given us some insights also, that let's go with convergence model. Let's start an open hard dialogue with all everybody, because we know problem is there, but what happens, like we sleep over it, the next day comes and we forget, we start with a new. So I'm sure that your talk definitely is a very motivating talk for all of us. We look forward for some sort of convergence model, wherein all the trends you have mentioned, they are definitely in sync with the contemporary times. It is the need of the hour. I am sure that if we all able to come together and work together, the results will definitely will be beautiful. Thank you very much.
Mr. Singh, I just have a request for Mr. Ravinder Singh, since he's present in this call as well. See, ATF, we partner with multiple corporates, and a lot of time my dialogue with corporates is about our people with disability are they skilled enough, or will they be able to work in this environment? And I always ask that question back to them. They are skilled, they are prepared, they're enabled. Are you prepared to really, accept them as employees? So, we've at ATF, we've created a model where we work with so many of them. A lot to share with, the same with Mr. Ravindra, offline, probably not now, but offline, and see how we can collaborate. But thank you so much, Sain, for inviting me.
Thank you, sir.
Sure,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
You can reach out to us. Always work with you.
Sure, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. In fact, now I invite our next domain expert, our expert speaker, Dr. Suraj Singh Senjam. He is from Department of Community Ophthalmology, Dr. Rajendra Prasad Center for Ophthalmic Sciences, All India Institute for Medical Sciences. Over to you, Professor Singh. Thank you for your presence. And he is a great author also. He has written a book on assistive technologies, and I am sure that I'll request him to share some insights on this book also. Over to you, sir. Meanwhile, I also take this opportunity to request all the delegates that after Dr. Singman's session, we will be having a Q&A session. If you have any question, please put on the chat box, and definitely we will try to raise it. We will put to our domain experts, and we will try to get answers on your questions. Please type your question in the chat box. Dr. Suraj, is there some audio issue? I think till Dr. Suraj set up his slides, I will just take you to the section of the book he has written, the introduction. This is an introduction to assistive technology. So normally we see a lot of fragmented literature on AT, but as a book, I think this must be the first in its order from India, and the editor is Dr. Suraj Singh Senjam, and I am sure that if we are able to get a copy of this, I am sure it's available on some of the platforms also. We'll try to grab the copy and try to understand your perspectives are in this book. Yeah, now your screen is visible. Please go on the slideshow, please. It's visible properly, Dr. Suraj Singh. It's visible, but audio is not there. Please check your microphone. Sir, slides are visible, but there is no audio. Is anybody else able to listen to his audio?
No, Dr. Singh, I can't hear it as well.
Yes, yes.
I can't also hear.
Dr. Suraj, your presentation is perfect. It's visible. The only
Am I
problem is,
audible now? Am I
yeah,
audible?
now you're audible, sir. Now you're
Okay,
audible.
okay. So I will remove my headphone.
Okay.
Okay, it's better.
Yeah.
So once again, good afternoon to all of you. First of all, so I would like to thank Dr. Jatinder, who invites me for this talk, and it is my privilege as well as an honor to be, in these new platforms. I would say it is the new platforms. So, and also I think it is the right time to form some kind of a society, at the national level, maybe, society for assistive technology. So because when you say assistive technology, it should be, interdepartmental, interdisciplinary, groups to be there. So I think it is the right time to think of some sort of society. I'm here and expert from IIT Delhi, expert from other Tata, and like so many, expert in this platform. So it is the right time. So now coming to I will be talking about assistive technology for visual impairment and blind. So especially I'll focus on digital technology. That is smartphone and what they call it, screen reader. So the first, this is the questions. I know in today's society, there are three things that we very frequently use it. So what are those? That is smartphones, computer or laptop, and mobile data. So these three things are, we every day in every, move out, we use these assets. So this, my talk, I will focus first on burden of person with disability in India and assistive technology for visual impairment. About in the context of digital India, the digital technology and smartphone for the blind, and the user-centered design for assistive technology. So many of you have already, highlighted about user-centered design for assistive technology. And last is the way forwards. Now coming to the disability in India, so globally, there are more than 1 billion people with disabilities, and these disabled people need some sort of assistive device to be able to perform their daily tasks and to assist in their independent living, like that. So in India, the number of disabled population is growing over time. So as you know, there is continuous epidemiological transitions and a demographic transition. At the same time, the chronic debilitating disease is increasing. So along with that, over time, the number of disabled population in India will be, significantly increase. So there are some figures over here. World Report Disability 2011. So the prevalence of disabled population in India is around 25% in age 18 years and above. And similarly, there's so many studies that published from South India, from North India, and Census 2011. So there is wide range of prevalence of disability, because when you define it disabilities, so there, variation in terms of defining disability in terms of impairment, disability in terms of activity limitation, disability in terms of participation restriction. So according to the definition, the prevalence of disability is varied. Now coming to, there are 21 disability in India according to 2016 Right of Person with Disability Act. So this blindness and low vision is one of the very, very important out of this 21. As you know, that addressing health needs of people with disability in India. So there are so many issues, challenge, barriers that disabled people face compared to people without disability. So all these challenges, what do we need? So every one of them need assistive technology. So assistive technology should be a part and a parcel of their life. Like someone have some health problems, so that person needs medicine. So similarly, a disabled person needs assistive technology. So assistive technology is a must for them. So thank you, Dr. Jatinder. He has shared a brief about this, an introduction to assistive technology book. So, and this book, I edited this book, and I must thank to my colleague, esteemed authors from different countries, from Japan, from Italy, from Australia, from Mexico, and then from India as well. So, and Australia also. So this assistive technology, this book explained all about this virtual reality when we think about neuro rehabilitation in neurodevelopmental disorders, and in the use of virtual reality in neurodegenerative disease like your Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and also one chapter which I feel very, very important, that is birth safety. So because in India also the life expectancy is increased from 55 to now just 68. So, and then over time, our life expectancy will be increased further, maybe 80 years. So when we increase our life expectancy, then the birth safety is very, very important, because the data shows that the accidents happen many times among the elder age group, and they come to the hospital with a fractured neck, fractured femur, fractured hand, and then ultimately it becomes a chronic problem for them. So birth safety is very, very important. There are so many assistive device technology that can support, that can help for among elderly populations to have birth safety. Now coming to the visual disability, when you say visual disability includes the low vision and the blindness. So recently, the Ministry of Health released the report on the National Blindness Survey. That survey, I was also one of the co-investigator. So based on the report, there are 34 million people have blind in India, visually impaired in India. And then for the blindness, there are around 5 million people in India have a blindness. And at the same time, low vision problems. Sometimes we call it functional low vision. So around 13 million people in India have some form of low vision. So this low vision is a person who still have the vision problem despite of management, despite of correction, despite of so many techniques that treats the vision problem. Still, the person has a vision problems and poor eyesight. That is called a low vision problems. So there are symptoms of low vision. So I'll not go into detail. Blurred visions, are not able to recognize face, not able to see TV, so image distortion and contrast loss. So these are the symptoms in the low vision problems. And these are the some of the patients who visited my clinics. So I'm also looking after this vision rehabilitation and training center in our RP center AIMS. And there's so many patients across of all age groups. So right from the senior citizens up to the young age and then child who have the vision problem. So each and every people, they have a unique challenge. So challenge for the family, challenge for the society, and as well as provider also. So because their need is different. So for a small kid, their need is different. For a young girl, her need is different, and for adults who had a blind due to the tuberculosis, meningitis, his need is different. So this is a challenge for us as well, in addition to challenge faced by themselves. So these are some of the impact of low vision and blindness. These are chronic health problems, and it affects the performance in daily living and basic self-care, like cutting simple nail, and then how to cut, how to do a safe, and then even moving in indoor and outdoor environment, and compromised their independent living, problem in social integration and ability to learn and education achievement. So in every angle, the visually disabled person face. So for that, we need assistive technology to deal with, to manage it. We need assistive technology for visual impairments. Now, over time, this assistive technology for visual impairment is growing a lot. So from the low tech to the high tech, it's expanded a lot over time in India as well as other high income countries. So I have written some books and published a lot of some papers about assistive technology for visual impairment, about the classifications and a handbook, and some research paper in a couple in the last 2-3 years. And these are some of the paper that I published. Now coming to the digital assistive technology, because there are a wide range of assistive technology. So now it is the digital society, digital India. We talk about digital India. Today, I had just completed my interview from BBC UK. So here I talk about smartphone, digital planet. At the same time, we have a digital India, smartphone access among the blind and visually impaired people, and smartphone application access among this special needy population. So there are wide range of digital assistive technologies, starting from the screen reader. Screen reader is something like when you type in the computer will speak with a synthetic voice. The blind person, a low vision person, can easily use this computer with the help of this screen readers. And now coming to smartphone, talking device, dot was, dot mini. And this dot was and dot mini is a South Korea company. They have developed some automated braille learning system, because a blind person can learn by himself using this dot mini. And dot was is a Bluetooth connect with the mobile. Somebody calls and somebody send a message, and then the person can easily see what are the messages. So this is a dot was. And a smart glass and smart cans, and our IIT colleagues, they have developed a smart can, which is very, very useful. And a hands-free mobility wearable tools. Nowadays it's coming up, an automated device and artificial intelligence lens. So artificial intelligence lens is, again, it's a state-of-the-art assistive technology for people with visual impairment. The function, there are a wide range of function that we need when we talk in terms of digital technology. So I will not go into detail. Starting from the magnification, the person who is having a partial eyesight, blind, then the person needs magnification. So smartphone can easily, some application can be installed in the smartphone, and then the text can be enlarged. So the magnification and object identification, there's a super sense which can identify the object, and OCR techniques. So there are a range of function that can we think of with the help of digital technology. Now this is the challenge. See, this challenge is like when you talk about this digital technology, digital India, screen reader and smartphones. So the Statista 2020, based on the report, Statista 2020, the smartphone access in India is 75%. This is in general public. When narrow down to the people with visual impairments, I don't know, I cannot say, it is not known how many of them are able to access smartphone. People having visual impairments. And at the same time, out of this, visual impairments, also it is not known how many of them use the smartphone application for visual impairment. So these are some of the data. I'm not sure. I don't know this, but we need to have data at the country levels. So about a screen reader as well, the same is true for the screen reader. This is the report published, this data 2020. So in 2020, see around 700 million people have a smartphone use. So if somebody asks, okay, how many of them used by the people with visual impairment? And the answer is I don't know. And how many of them aware about this smartphone application for visual impairment? The answer is I don't know, because we don't have a data on that. And there are some data that I collect from the schools for the blind in Delhi. So there are 52 devices in the questionnaire. So some of the schools, they use a screen reader and smartphone. Of course, there are 8 schools. The teachers talk about a smartphone application in some of the schools. I cover 24 schools located in Delhi. So on mobile phones and DAISY books and talking was. So out of these 24 schools, of course, some of them use smartphones and screen readers. But when you go to the general public, so the answer is I don't know. And these are some of the smartphone application for visual impairment. So thanks to the developer, okay, so I contact each and every developers right from the Be My Eyes. These are most of them are Americans. The ID Pro is this Indian. So this Ghaziabad, I think Ghaziabad-based technical company. So this Wiser, SuperSense, TapTapC, Money is a app developed by the Indian government. And thanks to the developer, I request him and then request to give a permission approval to use this smartphone application in providing training to my patient, my clinics. So they all give the permission. They said it is the free to use. If you want more update version, then we will send you. So I contact all of them. So I have developed one small, booklet. I can show you. This is the a training manual on use of smartphone application for people with visual disability. So this is training manual. So developed for this purpose about smartphone application. So the problem is most of them are in English language, and many of them they are not able to understand. There's accent, this American accent, UK accent. So we need to have a Hindi version as well, because in a remote area, village, if we want to train the smartphone, okay, so that English languages may not be able to comprehend. So we need to have a Hindi version. And this is the smallest, data collection that I made. So during the pandemic, so we started tele-rehabilitation service, because many representatives from schools for the blind and NGOs, they contact us and said there are so many students and the trainees are stranded because of lockdown. So they feel so much panic and anxiety. And then during that time in April itself, so we have started this daily rehabilitation. So we provide multiple service, started from the counseling and education about the, scientific information on COVID-19. Because in TV, many of times, watching TV every day, students and those trainees were not able to see, and they feel panic because there could be some misinformation and misconception. So we need to rectify. Okay, these are the things. So we don't have to worry. And at the same time, we organize online meeting also, discussion with these students and the trainees. And these are some of the data I'll share you very quickly. So in September, around 101 calls we received, and then smartphone owned. So around 46% they have a smartphone. And about this awareness about smartphone application for visual impairment. So around 20% of them, it's 17 hours. The smartphone application. And these are the location residents from of those callers. Delhi has maximum, UP 27%, Haryana, Bihar, and other states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, even from South India, they call me up. And last few slides, this user-centered design assistive technology. So those developers, the first thing should come in their mind is who will be the owner of the products if we develop, and who will be the owner? So the user. So whether the design is fit for the user, fit for the user or not. So it is very, very critical. What I am saying, it is very critical because there may be some, stigma if you hold some unusual device in your hand. Okay, so people may feel some stigma. Okay, and may lose some privacy, some negative reaction from other, like surrounding peers, like that. So we need to design, we need to think of these angles also while we develop assistive technology. And that's why involving this, disables while developing assistive technology is it's very, very important, I would say. So we need to talk with them. What is, say, like what should be the requirement for you? It is like this, will be fitted to you or not, like that. So their involvement is very, very important. The last is way forward to improve access. In India is accessibility. Access in a smartphone is a problem, as I mentioned earlier. So there are 4 P's. So to improve the access of smartphone across India, the first thing is people. The general public. The first, we need to make them aware, because before we start the awareness program for the blind people, for the people with visual impairment, the public should make aware. They should know it. Okay, these are the applications available for the person with visual disability. And this also, the general public also know that smartphone can be used by a blind person, because WhatsApp, everyone knows WhatsApp in today's society. But in this way, there are some applications which can be, once the general public, the family member, caregiver, peer teachers, school teachers, if they know it, definitely they will promote. And then once they promote, the access will be improved. And second thing is products, low cost and good quality smartphones. Cost in India, the smartphone is not very expensive when you talk, at the lowest rate. That is even 5,000 rupees, you can get a smartphone. So we need to, develop more. 5,000 could be a big amount for a person who is not, holding a job. So we need to think of reducing the cost of the smartphone as well in this digital society. And policy, it's very, very important here. A person holding a disability iCard. So for the students, for the college students, the persons individual having iCard. So governments provides, free of cost, those smartphones, tablet, assistive device. But the people who are not a student at all, people who are not having their iCards, so their, penetration under this scheme, a DIP scheme, it's very, very poor. So anyone having visual disability certificate, if there's some mechanism that the cost of the smartphone can be subsidized, and then the person can get it from this outlet, from this affiliated NGO to the government. So that kind of mechanism, it's very, very important to have in India to be able to improve the access of the smartphone. And this provision also is very, very important where to provide. Because in India, the Ministry of Social Justice and the Empowerment, under this ministry, there are so many affiliated, accredited NGOs, and they provide a service. In one hand, we work under the Ministry of Health. Okay, there are so many hospitals in the country, so many eye hospital, polyclinic. So we work under the Ministry of Health, and these NGOs who directly deal with the disabled comes under the Ministry of Justice and Empowerment. So if this organization, if there is some linkage between these two level of organizations, in terms of provisions, in terms of designing, then it will be, good benefit to those, the actual beneficiary, helpful to them. Okay, that was the last slide, and thank you for listening, and thank you once again, Dr. Jatinder, for inviting me for this wonderful webinar e-conference.
Thank you, Dr. Suraj Singh, for an excellent presentation, and you are doing great work in AT field, particularly for visually impaired and partially impaired people. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective, and also congratulations for the good work you are doing. And I'm sure that with your thought process, with your vision, definitely AIMS can also have a center of excellence for AT, maybe for visually impaired people. Thank you very much. And you rightly pointed about the 4 Ps. I am sure that 4 Ps, that is basically the mantra for improvising this sector, and with everybody's support, and as already being told in my previous talk also, that with convergence model of all like-minded entities, ATs can also be one of the important harbingers of growth and prosperity in our country. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I request our delegates to, if there is any question, kindly raise your hand. You can come in the panel and ask your question. If there's any question, please let us know, or alternatively, you can put your question in the chat box also. One question is to Mr. Pratik, what is the source of data? I think Mr. Pratik, you gave some data regarding in terms of the business opportunity and in terms of numbers also. So there's a question about the source of data.
Yeah, there are reports that's available when you look for the whole the thing which you probably might want to search for is the data on impact investment globally. There is a phenomenal Deloitte report, but although it's in the Australian market, but it talks about what's the opportunity available if we include people with disability in Australia, in employment. So they talk about a $42 billion of opportunity. So I think if you look for reports on impact investment and more on the economic benefit, you might get that information. I can send some links, what I'm talking about.
This is Dr. Samasarada from Jaipur.
Sir, can I give you a call in another 5 minutes? In fact, I'm in middle of a webinar. Just 5 minutes. Okay, sir. Thank you, Pratik. Yeah, is there any question? Please let us know.
I have a comment to what Pratik was saying. So,
yes, sir.
See, Pratik talked about success in many other things. He took lots of examples of Swiggy and Zomato and Ola and Uber. So I think one of the fundamental things that we have to tackle is in all those places where we have seen success in this country is where the company is able to meet a user need who is able to pay for it. Okay. And this is a fundamental disconnect that we are having here. So it is not the need, it's, need is very high, but there is no purchasing power for this. I will give you a couple of examples. These are very absolutely, amazing examples. So there are a company actually, which is a very good AT company in VI, working for more than 20 years, making out of Baroda, but nobody in India knew about them. So they are supplying to American market, and with, they had very fine, basic collaboration with the Texas Instruments when their calculators to make their calculators audible, and used all over and fundamental collaboration. So they are actually working on the calculator, they are the inside of the TI. So I was in a committee for making our Indian currency accessible. RBI had set up a committee and we did some tendering, and this company came. For 20 years, they are supplying this device. They are a monopoly supplier to US Federal Bank for making US currency accessible. But nobody in India knows about it. They never even ventured into the Indian market, and it's all R&D and production is done out of Baroda. This is the situation that, see, the point is it is easy. I'm not saying easy, but it is still possible to create companies for the world market. Margins are high. You can be a very productive company. It will be like the first phase of our Indian software companies. Most of our Indian software companies in their first 20 years did not serve the Indian market at all. So because they're high margins, they were doing, basically sending people outside or even sometimes developing software in India, but for internally. And the way, for example, the hospital industry has developed. We are a very big source for international hospitals, for medical tourism. but how many people have access to those type of hospitals within India? So this is actually the challenge that we need to address in the assistive technology sector, that we can talk of a very creamy layer which can actually afford, but the volume that is there is actually cannot afford. So how do we finance these solutions to the people? Because education is something fundamental. If the people don't get educated, they will not be able to be productive. The type of numbers Pratik gave, I completely believe those numbers are all real. But issue is, how do we provide any type of a quality education? And that's an investment which society has to do. Either the government or CSR or society, somebody has to do that investment. I think that's a challenge collectively we need to address. How do we make that investment, which is not going to give you a return on investment? That is the fundamental point. It has to be a social. GDP increase does not come to the person who is making an investment. That's where the challenge is.
Absolutely, completely agree, Professor Bala. I mean, I think it's a question of business model, because in our world we are talking about a user who possibly cannot afford or cannot pay. But there are actually a lot of examples, and just being conscious about the time. Like Narayana has created a model where they charge for the same surgery, a higher price, but use that whole economic, accounting model to subsidize the same surgery for the poor, right? I mean, so there are very good models which exist in the market. I think it's for us to really start looking at some of those models and see how we can implement those in assistive technology.
That's
Dr. Jatendra.
Yes, sir.
Actually, this currency, identifying currency by a blind person nowadays. So it's really, really challenging. Like a person who is completely blind, like we say, positive light perception and a negative light perception. So they are not able to identify this currency, because earlier we used to have some kind of, we call it notex. So now the currency after the demonetization. So I mean, it's really challenging for a blind person who is not able to see, and then he's trying to identify what is the 50 rupees or 100 rupees or 200 rupees, something like that. So based on that, I designed
to bring out this currency very quickly. They completely forgot that aspect of it. So we were involved with RBI on this. So the currency actually is not accessible. So now this is an app that is available. RBI has put out this app. It has been developed with RBI support, and it's a visual, a mobile-based app which can identify it. But there's also a hardware solution. Those can be made, but they are very expensive to make and distribute. How do we distribute? Federal Bank in US gives it free of cost. And this is an Indian supplier who is supplying to them for 20 years.
Yeah. But with the support from this blind aged people, so we designed some kind of, simple, something like a PAUX mechanism, like notex. There is a notex, we call it. So a patient who is totally illiterate, and in AIMS, patient like poorest of the poor patient and illiterate patient, they visit to our clinic as well. So based on that, we designed some kind of PAUX mechanism with a different reset. Then it was, quite successful. So we still have the model, and then we also did some kind of pilot testing to a few of them, not young people. So now we are not able to, convert into what do you call?
Yeah, that size difference has gone. Previously, you could, they could stack them because they're different sizes, but and that's all gone. So.
Yeah, sir, I can show you the design that we have thought of. After discussion with the blind person, so I can show you the design. It's like a small pouch type, and then we make it a cut, and then here is, so it is really, I feel it's a good. So then I can show you some other day.
Yeah.
If you're really interested, sir, then we can work together to move on this. It's a pouch kind of thing, very simple to identify the currency. Of course, we do have an application, and we have some hard, like they call to identify the currency. But some people face real problem to identify.
Mr. Ajit Bhardwaj has put that Microsoft AI, a free software, can identify Indian currency and 36 other currencies also.
Yeah.
And then also He has said that there are multiple labs where a blind and visually impaired can identify multiple currencies and are freely available. And there is a link also in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Ajit Bhardwaj. There's a question from Ms. Sudha Bhattacharya. How do we remove the stigma associated with disability so that people who benefit from assistance get noticed? This will also improve the market for assistive technologies. Anybody wants to pitch in? The stigma is again this is I think it's quite a issue with our country being from the colonial and then invaded by many emperors for many centuries. The disability is always it's at the backseat, whether it's a disability or maybe any mental illness. It has become a social taboo. Even rarely we are seeing people with any anxiety or any disorder going to a psychiatrist or going to a psychologist or any assistance. It's not open openly discussed, and same goes with disability also. I think this is the collective wisdom of our civil society that we need to come together. We need to create some sort of we need to evangelize this. We need to create some success stories, although there are many examples, like we have the Paralympians winning gold medals, and there are a lot of stuff. Paralympics is one of them, because anything with sports gives a lot of grit and motivation to all of us. Definitely there are success stories. The stigma, I think it's more in our mind rather than in the actual ecosystem as such. So at any point in time, like whenever we feel that any stigmatization is happening, we should be vocal and we should try to uncover that. That's my personal point of view.
Exactly.
Plus, what you're adding, Dr. Singh, is absolutely correct. Just to add to what Dr. Singh was saying, the challenge that comes is the persons with disabilities. When you're looking at a large percentage of this population is economically challenged also. And when that happens, when it happens for the first time to a family, they realize their baby or the child that they have in the family is a special child, they are suddenly kind of lost altogether. They don't know what to do, who to approach, how to take care of things. The whole world turns upside down. Now, there can be sensitization programs. We do a lot of sensitization programs towards the industry, so on and so forth. I mean, if some corporates can chip in and create CSR money for creating videos, etc., that can be shown on the national challenge, sensitizing people that, look, this is nothing very different. It is just what you need to do, how you need to do. And these are the places where you can actually start accessing a lot of information on how to take care of things, how to look after their special child, and how to move on in life. And once that happens, the acceptance first has to happen within the family before the society starts accepting the person. So that's the first step I feel that one can look at. And the technologies can actually start, if you have one app where all the challenges related to a specific disability can be reviewed, understood, and that also in vernacular can be created. I think that will be the first step towards, removing the stigma, and the more higher acceptance start coming in. I mean, do we stigmatize against an old man walking with a stick? Do we stigmatize with people walking with glasses? Do we stigmatize against people using hearing aids? No, because that's become the normal, natural kind of a thing. That's how it has to be brought into the entire society. The acceptance first has to be brought within the family itself before the society starts. That's what
rightly said, sir. Rightly said.
Sir, I will take this opportunity to share two big things are coming up at the national level. The first is under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So the National Essential List of Assistive Technology, assistive device. So it has been already developed under the ICMR. And another thing is World Health Organization that guide us to conduct a rapid assessment of assistive technology access in the community. So we are under process of this estimating the access of the assistive technology in the community. So with the support from World Health Organization Geneva. So next year by April, so we will have some data on that. How many of them, because including all assistive technologies, starting from this visual impairment, hearing, locomotor, wheelchair, everything. So WHO has guided us, and there was a training for 4 days, and then people from the ministry and myself also one part of it. So we're going to start this estimation of access of assistive technology in the community. And this national, I think many of you might have seen that national essential list of assistive device. So if anybody wants, I can share you. So this is the device already developed, but they are requesting comments. So comments, the deadline to provide the comments has been already closed. But if anybody wants, then I can share the document. So please let me know.
Thank you. So I think with this note, I'm thankful to all my fellow panelists who have spared their valuable time and shared insights. In fact, the best part was it was the plethora of mixed sort of institutions that all converged in. We had the domain experts from academia, from startup space, from investment space, from medical sciences space, from hospital, from industry, from skill development, NSDC space. So I am sure that the type of discussions we had, it was quite holistic. And the only point is that more traction is required, because since we work closely with industry, we also see the CSR project. In my entire 10 years in my PhD chamber, I've never seen a project on AT like as a part of some CSR activity of the industry. The industry is doing some sort of work in disability ecosystem, like in skill development or education, or giving them prosthetics. All those stuff is there. But in AT space, I've never seen like anybody pitching in and coming forward and and holding it, because the thing is that anything in AT is more on something which is intangible things. Probably you may develop a technology, or you may develop a software. Probably the product may be missing. I think that may be one of the reasons. The only point is, like, as you are all the important people in this space, like whenever you find any opportunity, please do evangelize this thing. We will definitely do from our side, from PhD CCI side, to the industry, that too, because AT again is a missing link. I'm sure that even like if you talk to 10 people, hardly one or two may be knowing about the AT thing in disability space. Everybody is aware of disability sector as such. They can give lectures, everything is there. And in fact, in most of the seminars, anything with disability, there is more intellectual thought process, more knowledge sharing that happens, rather than actually striking the chord. So my also humble plea with all the delegates and learned people also, that whenever you get any sort of discussion, please bring this perspective of AT thing also, because that's the most important thing we need to understand. Because technology is again it's a big it's such a big weapon in the hands of everybody, because it helps in leapfrogging anybody, any system or any process. Because we know that even if we see like government systems like e-governance and digital India, the more digital we are becoming, there's less leakages in the system. More digital is basically less paper, and less paper means less, or maybe basically no corruption as such. So otherwise also, like, my point is that whenever we feel that there is any discussion or anything on this space, we need to pitch for this strong AT thing also, so that people get total awareness on this. So at the last, I will request our co-chair of Electronics and IT Committee, Mr. Kunal Singhal, to kindly propose a vote of thanks on behalf of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Over to you, Mr. Kunal.
Thank you, Dr. Jitendra. It's been a very interesting session, and I thank all the panelists, Mr. Prateek, Mr. Pulke, Dr. Suraj, Professor Balakrishnan, Dr. Chardad, Mr. Ravinder for their beautiful remarks. I would want to touch one small topic before we conclude this seminar. So, as Dr. Jitendra mentioned, that usually everyone talks about education and other basic disability related skill development things, but no one talks about AT as such. And the ideas thrown today about AT, they were actually very enlightening, I would say. Even I thought a lot of things were here which I've never heard of before, never thought of before. And it seems that a lot of things are being done. It's just about they're not being made aware to. And I really feel that a good alliance between industry chamber and the technology creators can actually bring these technologies to the public at large. But at the same time, I feel that as much as things have been done in education for disabled people, they have also not yet touched masses. So today, as someone was mentioning that the stigma starts from home itself. Not every locality, we may have a disabled child in every nook and corner of the country, but we don't have educational institutes for special children in every nook and corner of the country. So they get lagged behind, they stay behind in their learning or their mental growth or their skill growth, just because there was no access to that kind of facility in their vicinity. So something on those notes also needs to be done to be able to create a platform which can bring all those children also, or which can give all those children also access to education, who do not get this chance but just because they did not have the relevant institute, or they did not get that comfort from the parents or the acceptance from the society to go to a regular school. So I feel that also sets down a foundation. And then when that foundation is set, making them aware of these assistive technologies, bringing them on board with them, also sets a foundation stone. So with those, I thank all the panelists once again. I thank the NG Chamber for bringing on this amazing event. Thank you once again. I hope we added good value to the participants.
And we are, sir, equally thankful to you also for sponsoring this event. We are thankful to Easy RPDMS, Mr. Kunal Singhal, for supporting this event, and thank you very much, and look forward to all the interventions of everybody in the near future also. So thank you very much. Namaskar and Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.